You know, there are times when Christians come up to me and they ask me, is it possible that God created through evolution? They're troubled by the idea of special creation because they understand that science is in conflict with the Bible on this topic. So they say to me, is it okay for me as a Christian to believe that God created through evolution? And I always say to them, look, we as Christians have to be rational and we have to be reasonable. We have to be honest with ourselves and go wherever the evidence leads us. And clearly the evidence says that evolution is false because the Bible doesn't mention it. The Bible clearly says that God created everything in 6 days, okay? There's no discussion here. There's no maybe it was 6 eons or 6 ages, maybe each day was hundreds of millions of years. No, it doesn't say that. It says there was morning and evening the first day, morning and evening the second day, okay? On the very first day, God said, let there be light, and there was light, all right? It's that simple. Yeah, I know he doesn't create the sun until later in the week, but God didn't need the sun to create light. God is the light, okay? And then every night around 7 or 8 o'clock, he would dim himself, take a break for like 8 hours, and then he'd turn himself back on again in the morning and get on with his work. Still, some Christians will say to me, well, maybe it's not meant to be taken literally. Maybe it's a poem. Right. God gave us a poem. First of all, poetry is kind of gay, okay? And God isn't gay, so why would he use poetry? Think. Why would he give us the story of his most important creation in the form of a poem? You don't explain an important subject like how all things came to be with a poem. Einstein didn't wait to publish his theory of relativity until he could make it rhyme. I mean, what a stupid argument. Yet some liberal Christians, there's an oxymoron for you, a liberal Christian, like Jesus was some hippie full of empathy for others walking around talking about peace and love. No, he came armed with a sword. He said to Peter, live by the sword, and something else, I forget exactly. Yet they insist, maybe we evolved from apes, and when we evolved from apes into humans, that's when God gave us a soul. But the Bible doesn't say that in the beginning there were populations of people created through a cycle of birth and death, does it? No, it doesn't. It says God made one person by his own hands out of dirt. Only one, for some reason. He didn't think to make another one. Well, not right away. He made one guy, Adam, in his own image, with a penis and nipples and a belly button, because clearly that's what God has. So no, he didn't think to make a woman right away. First, he told Adam to find a suitable helper from the animals that he had spent all that time already making. And it was only after Adam came back and he said to God, I tried to find an animal I could get along with, but they kick and bite, they're just not that into me. Then God realized, okay, he's a bit of a loser, I'll make someone who can be subservient to him, so I'll make a woman. But he didn't want to do the whole creating from dirt thing all over again, so he made Eve from Adam's side. Now, I know a lot of you are going to ask, wasn't it Adam's rib? And that's just silly, okay? He wouldn't have made a woman from a man's rib. He doesn't say that. It says he made a woman from the man's side. I'm not sure how. He did something. He cut and a woman like pop, whatever. It's not for me to ask how. It's only for me to understand the truth. And the truth is we did not evolve through populations of apes slowly becoming human over the course of many generations. No, we were made distinct from the animals as one man and one woman, and then we populated God's great creation through generational incest with our children, and our children having sex with their children having sex with their parents, and it was like that for a while. It was fine. God was fine with it, okay? It was fine. And everything would have still been fine if Eve, women, am I right? If Eve hadn't been tempted by an evil talking snake that God allowed in the garden for some unknown reason and eaten the fruit of a tree that probably shouldn't have been there either. So there you go. God, the perfect creator, creates this perfect garden that only had a few imperfections, like an evil snake that shouldn't have been there, and a tree with a forbidden fruit that probably shouldn't have been there, and two people that he didn't make smart enough to understand right from wrong. But instead of just enjoying the fact that they're in paradise, what do? They sin in like the first 5 freaking minutes and they ruin everything for everybody. They eat from the one tree that he specifically said don't eat from. The only thing they weren't supposed to do. And now God has no choice. I mean, yeah, he's God. I mean, he clearly has a choice, but he could have forgiven them if he wanted to, but he didn't, because it's his prerogative. He's God. And that's when death entered the picture. There was no such thing as death before the fall of Adam and Eve, okay? So they disobeyed and sinned, and now they got to pay the price. And not just them, but their children and their children's children and their children's, forever. But don't worry, because God is a merciful God. I mean, he's omniscient. He knew this was going to happen. So what does he do? Well, and this is brilliant, okay? He came down to earth as his own son so that he could sacrifice himself to himself as an atonement, for the sins that Adam and Eve did. And now he could forgive us, and we're cool. And as long as we believe that he did that, we're cool. I mean, isn't that amazing? And none of this would make sense if evolution were true.